Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Michelle Malunga, and you're watching the Scale Up PrEP Access Campaign live show brought to you compliments of the Zambian Youth Platform with support from PEPFAR and Chaz. So, on today's show, I am joined by three lovely guests. Brenda Chimbala, who is HIV nurse prescriber from the Dreams and is a Dreams site coordinator. Brenda, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Michelle, and good
I hope
afternoon,
you
everyone.
I hope you're doing well this afternoon.
Oh, yes, although it's a bit cold, but fine.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So we're also joined by Comfort Panda, who is a social worker and also Dreams site connector. Good afternoon, Comfort.
Good afternoon, Michelle, and good afternoon, everyone.
We're also joined by Miriam Ndewe, who is a grade 12 as well as a PrEP user. Miriam, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Michelle, and good afternoon, everyone.
Right. So for everyone else that's joining us on Facebook, on YouTube, feel free to type in your comments and we'll be happy to read them out. So I think before we get into the topic at hand today, Brenda, maybe you would just explain to us the type of work that you're doing with Maryland and how Maryland is working with regards to PrEP.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So I'm going to introduce what we are doing as University of Maryland, the programs that we are running in terms of PrEP. So I'll mention to say University of Maryland is implementing the Circuits project, which is a community project, and circuits starting out as community impact to reach the unsaved communities for treatment and support. And then University of Maryland is funded by CDC. Then we are operating in three provinces, being Eastern Province, Southern Province, and Western Province. And in these districts, we have 12 districts from Western Province. Southern Province, we have 5 districts, and we have 3 districts in Eastern Province. And the districts, namely, are Chipata, Lundazi, Petauke, Mazabuka, Monze, Choma, Kalomo, Livingstone, Kalabo, Nalolo, Kaoma, Mongu, Sesheke, Sioma, Mwandi, Sikongo, Nkiema, Mlobezi, and Senanga. So we are doing our community activities in terms of PrEP implementation in these areas that I've mentioned. So UMB has been implementing PrEP in Zambia since 2017, and we've piloted at 2 public health facilities, which is SEPO Center in Livingstone and Royal Clinic in Lusaka. Then we've been able to conduct hotspot mapping in the communities to identify young people that are at substantial risk of HIV infection. Then we've oriented the gatekeepers uh, and mobilized so that they can sensitize for PrEP demand creation. Then we've also managed to recruit and train community health workers, connectors, and mentors in PrEP demand generation. Also, we have been able to train healthcare workers in sexual reproductive health so that they can be able to offer the reproductive health services to our young people in a manner that is good. And then we've also set up safe spaces in the community as preventive posts where we also have adolescents, young people having groups that they have formed as PrEP user groups, which help to strengthen PrEP uptake in the communities. Thank you. I think this is briefly what we do as University of Maryland in terms of PrEP uptake and demand in the communities.
All right, Brenda, thank you so much for that elaborate introduction on the work that you're doing, the amazing work that you're doing around PrEP. So, Comfort, could you tell us a bit about yourself and the work that you're doing?
Okay, thank you so much, Michelle. So, I'm a connector. I'm a dreams connector. So the work that I do mostly it's working in the community where we do community mobilization and sensitization on the work and the services that we provide as University of Maryland, of which PrEP is one of the services that we do talk about in the community. So when we're in the community, we we meet up with the priority population, that's the young people, would meet maybe with the adolescents. We do use mobilizers who help us to mobilize these adolescents in the community and would meet them in the various community safe spaces. So in there, we create demand for PrEP by sensitizing the community, the adolescents about PrEP. We do talk about PrEP to, let me say, educate them mostly about PrEP. So during these sessions, that's when we are able to just mention what PrEP is and how it works and where we can get the service for PrEP and who is eligible for PrEP. So when we talk about these services, we do have a lot of young people that come up wanting to start PrEP. And those people, when they see us, my role especially is we do at least the screening, that's the non-clinical screening. And for those girls that are found eligible and for PrEP services, we refer them to the facilities or specific clinicians, the healthcare workers who further do the screening, and those that are eligible for PrEP initiated on PrEP. Basically, that's what I do as a Dreams Connector. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
So as I said, we'll continue with PrEP access in Zambia as we wait on Michelle to come back on. So our community safe spaces are right in the communities where these young people are found. And how we work around that is that the community safe spaces are attached to the mother facilities in the communities where we are. And why the facilities are coming in handy is that we need to collect the commodities for us to use even as we initiate these girls on PrEP, and for us to continue being able to keep up with the records of the girls, because these have to be merged up with the data at the facilities. So when we talk about the community, what are the things that we are getting from community mobilization? So we look at the benefits of PrEP. These are the topics that we'll talk about with the girls and with the adolescents and the young people in the communities, so that they continue to access PrEP. And also we are able also to make sure that those that are at substantial risk of getting HIV, they are initiated on treatment. As you can see, that it's not just a matter of putting them on PrEP. We have an eligibility criteria that we have to look at, and that one also we have to make sure that the adolescent that has been found to be at substantial risk for HIV, we subject them to the HIV test, and when they are negative, then we are able now to put them on PrEP. As we are still waiting for Michelle to get back on, so we have observed that because of the use of the safe spaces that are in the communities, we've been able to reach out to more young people, and they've been able to come through to the safe spaces and being attended to, because we have seen that from the feedback that we've gotten from the PrEP users that we have helped, we've seen that we've been able to modify even how the PrEP is being given.
Okay, so just to add on what Brenda has just said concerning the safe spaces that we create in the community, they have really helped us to scale up our PrEP uptake. So in these safe spaces are made in such a way that they are really friendly, and they are run by trained and skilled healthcare providers. And these healthcare providers are the very people which the adolescents live with in the community. So they are really friendly. So these safe spaces, they're usually people-centered, they're individualized, they're at least focused on individuals, where we give them enough time to just interact with us, and these interactions are done on an individual basis. So they are really conducive, and they're really helping us in scaling up PrEP. So the services that we offer for PrEP, in these safe spaces, we've seen that they're really working so much because they are made in such a way that they are not overcrowded. We usually have just a few adolescents that would meet in each safe space according to their age bands and their groups. So it's been found to be a very effective a way of reaching out to the girls and just scaling up the PrEP services. Um, thank you. I can see Madam Michelle is back.
All right, thank you so much for that, Comfort. So now just, to get into some of the questions, obviously, we sort of dove, we sort of like got right into the discussion regarding the community-based safe spaces, but also maybe people that are watching the show for the first time would like to know what is pre-exposure prophylaxis? What is PrEP? Brenda, maybe you'd like to help us with that one.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Yes, for sure, people might not, some people that are on the call might not understand what PrEP is. So this PrEP is the pre-exposure prophylaxis, which is the use of ARV drugs by HIV uninfected to prevent the acquisition of HIV before exposure to HIV. So when you look at PrEP, the first three letters, that's before, then E, it's exposure. So any activity that can lead to someone getting an HIV infection. And then you give prophylaxis. Those are drugs, as I have said, the ARVs that will prevent the acquisition of HIV. So if HIV has to be prevented, someone has to be taking PrEP, and this will greatly reduce the risk of someone getting the HIV infection. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have a comment from Emmanuel Nyirenda, who's saying he's learning. Thank you for this session again. A lot of youths are unaware of this initiative to live with people living with HIV. All right, so Comfort, maybe you'd help us explain why do we need PrEP? All right, Brenda, are you able to take that one?
We need PrEP because it helps to prevent a HIV infection or HIV acquisition. So PrEP is taken before someone has already been exposed to HIV. So of course, there are other several HIV prevention interventions that are given, such as condoms, VMMC, and HIV testing. But to add on to that, PrEP comes in. When we provide PrEP, it's just an addition to the already existing preventive interventions which are being used, and PrEP also has to continue to be used together with other interventions. Like I said, in this case, we're talking about condoms, and in men that maybe have not yet circumcised, they also get circumcised. It will be one way as well of the preventions interventions that are there, but including PrEP. So for PrEP, we are not going to say that because someone has started PrEP, then they don't need to take the other interventions. Other interventions have to continue to be given as well. So PrEP is not meant to replace any existing interventions. Like I said, mainly the use of condoms, HIV testing, and VMMC. So it also comes in as comes in together to be put as a package, which will be able to prevent someone from getting HIV infection. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Brenda. Welcome back, Comfort. We lost you there for a bit.
Thank you.
Are you able to actually take? Okay, I think I'm getting an indication that Comfort cannot hear me. Brenda, are you able to get me?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so who can actually take PrEP?
Okay. So, as I said in the beginning, PrEP is being offered as an additional preventive choice as part of the combination of HIV prevention approaches for people. So, the people who are able to take PrEP, one, someone who has tested HIV negative. And when I say someone has tested HIV negative, it is someone who has been tested according to the national guidelines. And in this, we use determine if they've been they are HIV negative. When we do the test, the rapid test, then when someone has come out negative, then they are a candidate to be put on PrEP. So this is important to note that only the people that are HIV negative are the ones that are able to take PrEP. And for those that test HIV positive, those we recommend that they take full ART. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. We have a question from Donvan Simbai, who's asking, is PrEP good for pregnant women? Comfort, Brenda, any of you can take that question?
Yes, it is safe for a pregnant woman to take PrEP. There's no risk. Thank you.
Okay. And Hope Malambo says, is there any age restriction to PrEP?
So there is no age restriction in terms of the young people. Someone who's at substantial risk of acquiring HIV, they can take PrEP.
Yes, just to add on Brenda's. So just for our national guidelines, as in here in Zambia, we have age restriction for PrEP. So for those that are below the age restriction and they're already involved in high risk activities, we do seek consents from their from the various guardians and parents. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we have another question from Victoria Nakanyika, who's saying, just taking you back, Madam Brenda mentioned that you work with community health centers. So my question is, if I walk to any facility today, am I able to access the service anywhere, anytime?
Thank you for the question, Victoria. So for the community safe space we have in the communities, anytime you walk in, you'll be able to access the services. And then also, as I said, that we affiliate with the health facilities that are in those localities where the community safe spaces are. Even the facilities are able to offer the services for PrEP.
Okay. Thank you for that, Brenda. So before we get into Naomi's question, Miriam, you're someone who uses PrEP. How has your experience been with PrEP? Um, and how have you found that experience?
For me, PrEP has been very effective ever since I started using it. I've been on PrEP for a year plus now, and it has worked well for me. Well, at first, I did experience some side effects when I started taking PrEP. Just had a slight headache and nausea, but for which it disappeared just in within a week. And since then, it has been working well, and it's very effective.
Mhm. Have you received any negative comments from people around you, family members, friends, because of taking PrEP?
Yeah, sure. That's very common. I have, but
Mm-hmm.
when it's for my own good, I decided to
Mm-hmm.
start taking PrEP because I felt I was at risk of contracting HIV. And
Mm-hmm.
though people might have negative views about it, but it's really helpful. And I've been trying to talk to other girls and other adolescents about it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Miriam, for sharing that experience. So we did have a question which was talking about whether PrEP can prevent, I don't know if we can ask, yes. So Naomi Mwinga asked, does PrEP or PEP prevent other STIs and pregnancy?
So Naomi, PrEP or PEP does not prevent STIs or pregnancies. That's why from the beginning I was saying what PrEP is just an addition to the prevention services that have already been there, and including of PrEP just is an addition to whatever has already been existing. So it does not prevent STIs and pregnancy. That's where we say family planning comes in. Someone has to be also put on family planning to prevent unplanned pregnancies. And for STIs, they have to continue using condoms for them to be to prevent themselves from getting other STIs.
Thank you so much for that, Brenda. So Christian Ciazuela is asking, how long can someone take PrEP before exposure?
So, Christians, uh, someone can take PrEP for as long as they're at risk of contracting HIV. So there is no time frame for you to stop taking PrEP. For as long as you're at risk, you are supposed to be taking PrEP. You can only stop PrEP when you know you're no longer at risk. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that comfort. So now for those that are watching and getting the interest to actually start PrEP, how can they access PrEP? Where do they start from? What's the procedure?
So PrEP can be accessed from the health facilities. I think all the health facilities provide PrEP. So anyone who wants to start PrEP, they can simply just walk in the health facilities and they'll be provided with PrEP. So the procedures, it's just that someone should be willing at least to take an HIV test, because that's the beginning or introduction to starting PrEP. At least you must test HIV negative for you to be started on PrEP. And this person must be willing also to adhere to PrEP, because as you have heard, PrEP works well only when you adhere to the instructions, like mm, uh, coming for retests, because we take PrEP, we are given for the first time. You come after a month to have your HIV testing. we need to confirm you're HIV negative before you are given the other package of your drugs, which will be given then for 3 months. And you have to be coming for testing at 3 months as you take your other PrEP drugs. So the testing is usually done simply because we want to make sure that this person who is accessing PrEP is a negative, HIV negative person. So these are the things that someone should be willing and able to do for them to come and access the PrEP services from the health facilities.
Thank you so much for that comfort. We have a comment from Enoch who's asking, so for men, we now know that there is at least male circumcision as part of HIV prevention. Is there a specific similar preventive choice for females as well? Brenda, are you able to help us with that question?
Okay. So for a specific prevention for females, we don't have it. It's just a condom use. You're supposed to be using condoms for females. That's the only prevention that we can advise, and also just for the family planning for us to avoid getting pregnant. So for the HIV acquisition, other than PrEP, we can just advise on condoms.
Okay, thank you so much. Hansel Mwetwa is asking, does PrEP and PEP have the same success story? Would we say that the success rate of PrEP and PEP would be, yes, the same or similar?
Yes, I would say yes. It could have the similar, especially when we follow the instructions that we're supposed to do before we take either PrEP or PEP. As you know, for each one of them to work very well, it must have followed the instructions. Like Brenda had alluded in the beginning, that PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis, meaning it is before exposure. So if you come to start PrEP before you're exposed, you'll be able to have a success story that is required, because you'll be educated on what you're supposed to do before you start involving yourself in the risky behaviors. And as well as PEP. So PEP is given to those that have already undergone a risk. And so we understand that they don't have to come after the 3 days, the 72 hours, meaning PEP can also work well if you follow the instructions of coming as soon as the incident has happened to the health facility, so that you can be started on the medication. Of course, they'll have to test you to make sure that you are HIV negative before you are put on those antiretroviral drugs. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So Hope Malambo's question is connected to the question I was about to ask just now, where I wanted to find out how long do you need to take PrEP, and then also, can someone develop resistance to PrEP?
Okay, so for how long again? We've mentioned, so someone can take PrEP for as long as they're at risk. And for the resistance for PrEP, we cannot say you can't develop any resistance for PrEP as long as you are still HIV negative and you are continuously coming under adherence to PrEP, meaning you're following the guidelines you've been given for taking PrEP. So this is why we always test people every time they come for their follow-ups, meaning for their refills. They'll come. We say that the beginning they come at 1 month, then thereafter they come at 3 months. So that's why we do the HIV testing, to make sure that this person is maintain the HIV negative status, because then it's when you're tested positive, we have to change you and take you to full ACT so that you are able to cope well with the medication. So that is basically about PrEP medication. There's no
Okay.
much.
Thank you so much. We have a question from Chungumbe Mushole, who says a person who is HIV negative and he or she is in a relationship with a person who is HIV positive on an active sexual practitioner who is HIV negative. Uh, okay, so I'm guessing that was a comment, not necessarily a question. Okay, Doris was asking if PrEP has any side effects. I know that Miriam did touch on a few that she personally experienced, but are there any other side effects that people can expect to experience while taking PrEP?
Thank you, Doris, about that question. For sure, we have minor side effects, as alluded from Miriam. We have headaches, we have nausea, diarrhea. Yes, we have those. But then we have even other side effects, which are um, I can talk about the kidneys not being able to cope with the uh, PrEP intake. So even as we are giving PrEP, that's why we have to also collect bloods to do our creatinine clearance, so that we know that the person that we are putting on PrEP, their kidneys are okay, and they're able to take their PrEP drugs. So we have other side effects. So in places, sometimes you'd find that with the inconsistency in commodities offered, like in the lab reagents, we find that we might not have creatinine for us to rule out the kidney problems. At the centers, the facilities, we are able also to use urinalysis, where we are able to rule out proteins in the urine, and we are able to put someone on PrEP. Then I want also to talk about resistance that was asked. So for someone that is HIV negative and on PrEP, they will not have any resistance. But the moment they become positive and you don't get to retest them and know that they are positive and not put on the full ART services, then they'll be able to get resistance to the drugs that are being given, the tenofovir and amitriptyline that they are taking for PrEP. Then there will be resistance, and those drugs, they will not be able to work when they are put on full ART.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you so much for that, Brenda. So earlier on, we touched on the community-based safe spaces. So I just wanted to find out, in terms of retaining young people on PrEP, how has that been? How has the success rate been? Comfort?
And so about returnment to PrEP groups, we do have ball games in the safe spaces that we have, different activities that we do. So when we go for those ball games, we have sessions to talk about PrEP, and our mentors and connectors continue encouraging us and also talking to us about HIV and the HIV preventions, for which PrEP is one of them. And we have also formed a PrEP users group where we are only the girls that use PrEP or the girls that are on PrEP. So we also have meetings in those groups where we just encourage each other and hear our different experiences, and also just to keep going because it's for our own good.
Thank you so much for that, Miriam. So Naomi says some drugs don't work well if the person takes alcohol. Does PrEP work well even to people who take beer?
Uh, Thank you. So on that one, it comes down to adherence issues. So for someone that is on taking drugs, and these drugs, for them to be effective, they need to be taken at the right time and the right time every time. There's no missing for the drugs to be effective in someone's body. So if someone is taking alcohol, most of the times you find that if they are taking alcohol, they end up forgetting to take their drugs, and this poor adherence would come in, where someone will even be able to circumvent because their system has not been able to keep the optimal drugs that are needed for it to sustain the prevention of HIV not to take place.
All right, thank you so much for that, Brenda. So looking at the time, I think we will just wrap up on today's show, and I will allow Brenda, Comfort, and Miriam to each say something as we wrap up. Any last words? We can start with you, Brenda.
Okay, thank you so much. So, on wrapping up, I just want to reach out to the young people that PrEP is one of the good HIV prevention services that one can get or to the already existing HIV preventive services that are being offered in our community safe spaces, in our facilities around the country. So you should actually get through to the spaces where these services are being offered, and as long as you know you are at substantial risk to acquiring the HIV, it actually saves from you not being infected. So it's an opportunity for the young ones, the young people that are at substantial risk not to get infected. So the important part is that they continue to take the PrEP and ensure that they do not miss on taking the drugs so that it should work effectively. Thank you.
Okay, so to
Thank you
everyone
so
tuned
much,
in,
Comfort.
yes. Uh, so saying to everyone tuned in, I think I just want to emphasize the point that PrEP is good and it works if taken correctly and consistently. So let everyone else, to the young people out there who are in at high risk of contracting HIV, please let's go to the nearest facilities and access PrEP. Will be provided with the service there. Thank you.
For me, I would just like to encourage my fellow adolescents, especially female, the girls and the ladies out there. Do not have the fear of being judged. Get to know your HIV status. Get tested. If you test negative and you feel you're at risk of contracting HIV, you can start PrEP. It's good and it will help you.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle.
All right, so thank you so much. You were watching the Scale Up PrEP Access campaign, brought to you by the Zambian Youth Platform with support from PEPFAR as well as Chaz. We were joined today by Brenda Chimbala, who is an HIV nurse prescriber and Dreams site coordinator. And we were also joined by Comfort Panda, who is a social worker, and Dreams site connector. We were also joined by Miriam Mbewe, who is a PrEP user. Thank you for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.